Well, let's talk about the big story that's going around because everybody is talking about it and it is going to be pretty big news if, and it's a big if, it turns out to be true. Are Robert Downey Jr. and Chris Evans really returning for the MCU and returning for good? When that Vanity Fair piece dropped about a week ago, we got the first news from a trade about the possibilities of some of the original Avengers returning. Now, what that report indicated was Marvel was looking to bring back those OG Avengers to prop up Secret Wars and to revitalize the franchise and hopefully recharge the MCU moving forward. Now, since then, every scooper from here to Kingdom Come has jumped on the bandwagon with new stories, and boy is it muddying the waters. So let's dive in and talk about this a little bit, what we do and actually don't know, what might be true, and where this is all likely going. Now, before we do that though, make sure you hit the like and subscribe button and ring that bell for all the updates. Also, check out that merch shelf below. It is a spectacular way to support this channel. Well, to be completely fair, ever since Robert Downey Jr. and Chris Evans, along with several other big stars like Scarlett Johansson, made their exit from the MCU, things have not been the same. Now, those actors did a great job, but they're not what's missing right now in the Marvel Universe. But despite that, all the recent reports about them returning, well, it has generated a tsunami of buzz. Now, since that Vanity Fair article dropped, we started to get more and more follow-ups. And like I said, every scooper between here and there has got an official story and has added something to the whirlpool, making this way more confusing. Now, we are hearing multiple reports from various directions that 2 actors have indeed already signed. But this isn't from Marvel or Kevin Feige. And for me, we have to be careful here because it seems a bit opportunistic. Now, if these reports are true, what they are saying is that not only has Robert Downey Jr. agreed to come back as Tony Stark, aka Iron Man, but Chris Evans will be joining him as Steve Rogers. Now, we've got no word on Scarlett Johansson as of yet, and that doesn't surprise me. Remember, the relationship between her and Disney turned a little sour under Bob Chapek, but all those issues were resolved, and I have to think she would be pretty excited to join some of her friends back on set, especially if the appropriate payday came with it. Now, these reports have gone even further, because they have gone on to suggest that these returns are not just for Secret Wars. Now again, this is doubling down on something that hasn't been confirmed, and I can literally find this nowhere except from a couple of scoopers and on various posting platforms like Reddit. So I don't know how much I believe this, but what they are suggesting, as we have heard, after Secret Wars we will have a new MCU, and in that MCU we'll have lots of elements from other worlds and previous franchises incorporated into that story and all given a fresh coat of paint with a soft reboot. Now, these reports are suggesting that Robert Downey Jr.'s Tony Stark and Chris Evans' Steve Rogers will stay on as those characters in the MCU after Secret Wars. Now, if this turns out to be true, I'm sure some people would find that pretty exciting. And honestly, both guys will probably be the immortal take on both characters. And although I do expect them back for Secret Wars, the second half of this equation I find very, very unlikely. They both have tons of fans, but the problem is, the MCU moving forward is going to want to have the ability to tell new stories. And I don't know how much time either Chris Evans or Robert Downey Jr. could possibly put in as the character just based on certain physical limitations. Robert Downey Jr. is almost 60 years old, and Chris Evans has made it pretty clear he doesn't miss the Captain America lifestyle, and all the training and diet restrictions that go with it definitely impacted his personal life. Now, this doesn't mean those 2 guys wouldn't be up for returning for Secret Wars. It just means I don't know if they would go past that. And with that, I don't know why Marvel would want them to. Now, they're both great, and honestly, they could rejuvenate the franchise, but Marvel has a great opportunity after Secret Wars to bring in a bunch of new faces to occupy some of these characters. The cost for some of these actors is astronomical, particularly Robert Downey Jr. And with Marvel reevaluating their financials and trying to make better decisions on that front, I think this will be a huge missed opportunity. I also think after Secret Wars, Marvel is very likely to want to set the tone that all of their characters can or could be recast in a very similar way as James Bond has rotated through that franchise. Fans become pretty accustomed to actors playing certain characters, but there always is an end date, and an actor's enthusiasm to return, play the character, or need to do other things often distracts from that. I can totally see a future where Marvel will work really hard to lock down some actors for 4 or 5 movies, get full arcs made with those actors, but be completely open to recasting that character moving forward. And if they bring Downey or Evans back as those primary characters, it completely undermines their ability to do that moving forward. Personally, I think most of these reports are scoopers kind of taking advantage of the atmosphere and the report and just trying to pile on a little bit and garner clicks. It's exciting to some fans, it would make for a very interesting story, but ultimately we have no real information, and if we want to focus on the real news, that's pretty much where this story ends. Now, if we get some official news from a trade that somebody has signed, or from Marvel Studios or Kevin Feige himself, we're all over it. But until then, I think we all should just sit back, watch what's going on, and wait for some official news about Secret Wars.